Welcome to Sunday. We're always grateful to have you here. I'm Christy Paul.
I'm Victor Blackwell. Good morning to you. If you're just waking up, the big news, the Senate vote on the Republican health care bill has been delayed again, this time because Senator John McCain is in Arizona recovering from surgery.
As President Trump's agenda stalls and the Russian controversy swirls, a new Washington Post poll showing the president's approval rating dropped to 36%.
We're also learning the president's re-election campaign paid $50,000 to the law firm that is now representing Donald Trump Jr.
Also new this morning, former FBI Director James Comey writing a new book about his experiences in public service. So a lot of people curious, what is this going to reveal perhaps about the 2016 elections or his dealings with the president before he was fired? Errol Lewis and Sarah Westwood are back with us. Sarah, I want to get your take on that. What is the expectation for this book and what may or may not be revealed?
Well, I think we just don't have any idea what James Comey is looking to put forward in this book. I think any account of his public service would be incomplete if he didn't include at least some details about how the 2016 campaign unfolded and his final days in the FBI before he was dismissed by President Trump. But certainly we're hearing that if he's willing to include some of the juicier details from his time in office, particularly over the last 2 years, that he will be receiving an enormous payout for that book. I think it'll be an instant bestseller. I'll certainly want to read it if he includes some of those very interesting and still unknown details from those last very controversial couple years of his service. So this is going to be one of those rare books that kind of unites Washington. Everybody wants to read it, one of those potentially explosive accounts. We just don't know how much he's allowed to or willing to include in it.
Errol, do books like this, tell-alls, maybe it, really have any effect on a current or a past president or administration?
Well, I don't know if it will affect this or any other administration. I mean, the question is it going to be a tell-all or a tell-some, right? Because if you want to get into a bidding war, if he's talking with a book agent, if he's talking with publishers, one of the things they will tell him right away is that to the extent that you can put a bombshell in there, something that nobody else knew, you know, it really could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. And so it's a real serious thought that he's got to give to it. I suspect that a lifelong public servant like Mr. Comey doesn't really even quite understand how explosive the information that he takes for granted is, how badly the rest of us want to know what was going on. I'll certainly be queued up, just like everybody else, to see if I can get an interview with him if and when this book appears.
All righty. Let's talk real quickly about what happened in France and the Australian Foreign Minister Julie Bishop's reaction to it that has really garnered some attention this morning. Let's look at what happened when President Trump met there in France with France's First Lady.
If he said that to you, would you be flattered or offended?
I'd be taken aback, I think. It's a rather interesting comment to make. I wonder if she could say the same of him.
Errol, I saw you flinch for a second when you, what was your reaction to her reaction?
You know, I have to say, by the standards of the Access Hollywood tape and the vulgar and obscene comments we've heard from Donald Trump over the years, I didn't think of very much of his comment to the First Lady in Paris in the first place. And once in a while we get a reminder, I think this is one of them, that we just elected our oldest president ever, and he's going to have to get used to the standards of a world in which there are a lot of female heads of state, foreign ministers, others who are expecting a different kind of, even if he sort of well-intentionedly wants to sort of offer a compliment, there are new standards now. He's going to have to get used to that.
Sarah? What about you? What about, I mean, I understand what Errol is saying, no doubt about it. This is a man that has been in office, or not in office, but in big business for many, many years. It did seem out of the ordinary.
It did, but I think that this comment, while it was a little off-key, it it wasn't significant in the context of his trip. It didn't seem to at all impact his relationship with the Macrons. It was an otherwise very successful trip from the perspective of the White House. The comment sort of went viral on social media, got a lot of attention, but overall, I don't think that it was a big deal. A lot of President Trump's critics like to focus on any and all flaws in the administration that they can find, but certainly this is, like Errol said, pretty tame by Donald Trump standards, and I don't think that it had any kind of effect on his trip to France.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he said, you know, she looked beautiful. Errol Lewis, Sarah Westwood, always appreciate your voices. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Democrats are taking Kid Rock's Senate-run plans seriously. The singer, also known as Robert James Ritchie, because that's his real name, took to Twitter this week to announce his intentions, responding to questions about what appears to be his campaign website. His tweet insisting that this is not a joke, which many still believe it is. Now, we put potentially what this may be aside. Senator Elizabeth Warren responded to the announcement in an email to her supporters saying, well, maybe this is all a joke, but we all thought Donald Trump was joking when he rode down the escalator at Trump Tower and announced his campaign, too.
The White House under fire, perhaps, from Fox News. Fox News host Shepard Smith launched a blistering attack on Friday after the revelation that as many as 8 people were in that controversial meeting with Donald Trump Jr. in 2016 at Trump Tower.
Why is it lie after lie after lie? If you clean, come on, clean, you know? My grandmother used to say, when first we practice to, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. The deception, Chris, is mind-boggling. And there are still people out there who believe we're making it up. And one day they're going to realize we're not and look around and go, where are we? And why are we getting told all these lies?
Shep Smith always has been such a popular journalist there at Fox. Smith's rant, though, didn't go over well with some of their viewers who've taken to the internet now calling for him to be fired.
All right, O.J. Simpson set for a crucial date with a parole board on Thursday. We're going to check in with our legal expert who says that Simpson should be released without question.
Also, scientists say 3/4 of all species could disappear in the coming centuries. Any way that we can reverse this course?
38 minutes after the hour now, O.J. Simpson will go before a Nevada parole board this week. He's still in prison after his conviction for kidnapping, armed robbery, and assault with a deadly weapon. He was sentenced in 2008 for trying to steal the pieces of sports memorabilia at gunpoint. Here's CNN correspondent Paul Verkaman on the factors that could lead to Simpson's release. What are they?
A factor in O.J. Simpson's favor, the Nevada Parole Board leans heavily on what are called risk assessment guidelines to make a decision on letting prisoners go. The lower the score, the better the chances. Expected to score a mere 2 or 3 out of at least 12 points. Another huge coup for Simpson. The victim of the armed robbery in a Las Vegas hotel room vows he'll testify for Simpson. Memorabilia dealer Bruce Furlong has repeatedly told me he will travel to the Lovelock prison so he can see Simpson face to face and then tell the parole board he thinks the former football star did too much time for the crime. And worth reminding, the 1994 slayings of Simpson's ex-wife Nicole and her friend Ron Goldman will not be considered by the commissioners. Simpson was acquitted of those murders. At the parole hearing, a family friend says Simpson's daughter Arnell will likely testify for her father, and then the drama will ramp up when Simpson himself tries to convince the parole board that he deserves freedom. In a past hearing, Simpson described himself as a model inmate who has been a prison diplomat of sorts. The commissioners will watch and ask questions via video conference from Carson City and come up with a decision that day. If Simpson is denied parole, the commissioners would set a rehearing date typically from 1 to 3 years out. If Simpson is freed, he would not get out of prison until early October. And where would he go? Well, his good friend Tom Scotto says that the west coast of Florida, a likely destination. That's where Simpson's adult children live.
All right, Paul Verkammen, thanks so much. Question, did Simpson's punishment fit the crime, or was something else at play? Was the murder trial acquittal at play in this sentencing? Joining us now to discuss, CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson. Joey, good morning to you.
Good morning, Victor.
So we had an interesting tease coming into this block of the show that you believe he will be released in early October by this parole board without question. Why?
Well, I do believe that, and I think if the parole board is acting in good faith, Victor, and there's no reason to believe why they would not be acting that way, I think he's sprung loose. And there's a basis for that. Now, you know, when you look and examine the underlying offense, I don't think there's anyone within reason who would say, based upon what O.J. Simpson did, you know, look, he breaks into a hotel room. He gets and retrieves his own sports memorabilia. He did it, yes, they had guns allegedly with them. Well, I won't say allegedly. He was convicted of it, okay? And he takes his own equipment back. Did people really believe that he was going to execute or injure someone there? Was it a crime of stupidity? Absolutely. Was it a crime of arrogance? Without question. Was it technically a crime under the law? It was. But do you deserve 9 to 33 years for doing that? When you have the person, the very victim, that says, you know what, Mr. DA, Madame DA, it's worth 1 to 3 years, and then he gets sentenced to 9 to 33, that's telling within itself. And so I think ultimately, again, if the board acts within good faith, taking into consideration punishment, deterrence, and rehabilitation, O.J. Simpson will be loose.
All right, so you know, Joey, that there are people who, going back to the first O.J. trial, the murder trial, believe that in this case, O.J. got what he deserved after his acquittal in the other case. They are not and should not be connected. But do you believe that this 9 to 33 year sentence is any residual or has any residual impact from the earlier case?
Well, let me say this, Victor. I believe in our system of justice, okay? As an officer of the court, having been a prosecutor and now as a defense attorney, I have to put my faith in that system. That's the system that we have. No matter what state you're in, it's designed, it's democratic, we have jurors, and so we need to believe in it. Having said that, it's hard to imagine that the sentence that was imposed here was not in any way some retribution or payback for what he did. Now, everyone has an opinion upon O.J. Simpson. Everyone has an opinion about it. Did he do it? Didn't he do it? Is there a real killer out there? Most people you talk to, Victor, say he did it. He got away with it. He had Johnny Cochran, smooth attorney. He had the dream team. And did he get away with murder? Most people will answer that question, yes. Should that have factored in to the issues that occurred in this case? The answer is resoundingly no. Cases have to be about what they're about. Any crime that you allegedly committed, the jury has to weigh and evaluate what you did here. Now, I'm not suggesting the jury did anything but that, because technically the elements of the crime were met. When you go into the room and say no one leaves, it is false imprisonment, it's kidnapping, okay? Yeah. When you have guns that are with you that you could potentially use and you put them in fear, you're guilty. But a sentence of 9 to 33 years based upon a crime of stupidity, it's hard to imagine that that didn't have anything to do with retribution and payback. I do believe that, and I also believe that this board will base their decision not about that, all right? Not about that crime, but about this crime. And if they do, and they factor in the conditions that they need to, the safety of the community, will he be a recidivist offender and come back, or will he get out there and live his life in peace at 70, I think that we will see the juice, Victor, being sprung loose.
All right, Joey Jackson, we will see if it happens this week. We'll be watching. Thanks so much.
Thank you.